To save your loved ones, you must first learn to view them with the cold clarity of a general observing the terrain. This is not a path to sociopathy. It is the highest form of love, an ancient secret to unbreakable strength, hidden in plain sight. For in the war of emotion, the heart that feels the most but reacts the least holds the ultimate power. The question is not if you love them. The question is, are you strong enough to truly protect them? Look around you. Listen to the echoes in your own home. The battlefield is not where you think it is. It is not in boardrooms or on distant shores. The most brutal, unpredictable, and consequential wars are fought across the dinner table, in the silence of a shared bed, and in the frantic text messages sent in moments of anger. This is the war of the heart, and in it nearly everyone is a casualty, fighting with the worst possible weapons: raw, unfiltered emotion. Consider the common approach. A crisis erupts, a financial mistake, a betrayal of trust, a child's rebellion. What happens? The air thickens with blame. Voices rise. Words intended to wound are launched like fiery arrows, and they always find their mark because the target is someone you know intimately. Fear becomes panic. Disappointment curdles into contempt. Love, which should be a source of strength, becomes the very fuel for the fire. We are taught that this is passion, that this emotional inferno is proof that we care. We believe that to love deeply is to surrender ourselves to the storm, to be tossed by the waves of rage and sorrow alongside the person we claim to cherish. This is the most dangerous lie you have ever been told. It is the path of the conventional, the predictable, the weak. This emotional surrender is not a sign of strength. It is a strategic catastrophe. When you are consumed by your own emotional reaction, you cease to be a protector. You become just another victim of the chaos. Your judgment is clouded. Your decisions become impulsive and self-serving, driven by a need to soothe your own wounded pride or quell your own terror. You react to the immediate sting of a harsh word, forgetting the long-term objective, the safety and stability of your family, your partnership, your legacy. In this state, you are not a leader. You are not a guardian. You are a leaf in the wind, and the storm will shatter you and everything you are trying to hold together. But there exists another path, an ancient way, carved not in stone, but in the silent, deliberate space between impulse and action. It is the way of the strategist. The great general Sun Tzu, in his timeless treatise, The Art of War, wrote, "The victorious warrior wins first, and then goes to war, while the defeated warrior goes to war first, and then seeks to win." Understand this vital secret. The principle was never just about soldiers and chariots. It is about the mastery of any conflict, especially the ones that matter most. When Sun Tzu speaks of winning first, he is not speaking of defeating your loved one. He is speaking of conquering the true enemy, your own internal chaos. The victory is won in the silent chambers of your own mind, long before the first word of a conflict is ever spoken. It is the victory over your own reactivity, your pride, your fear. Strategic detachment is the mechanism of this victory. It is not the absence of love. It is not the cold, dead heart of an empty fortress. Instead, it is the quiet, unbreachable calm of the master strategist who feels everything but is controlled by nothing. It is the conscious decision to separate your feelings from your actions, to feel the heat of anger, but to choose the response that is cool and precise, to feel the sting of fear, but to act with courage and clarity. Imagine a lighthouse on a rocky shore. It does not fight the storm. It does not rail against the crashing waves. It does not fear the darkness. It simply stands. Its power is not in its aggression, but in its unshakable foundation. It holds its light steady and clear, providing guidance and a point of stability for ships lost in the tempest. This is the role of the strategist in a relationship. You are to become the lighthouse. While the world, and those within it, are consumed by the emotional storm, you remain steadfast. Your calm becomes the anchor. Your clarity becomes the light. This is the first step. You must reframe the objective. Your goal in any domestic conflict is not to prove you are right, not to win the argument, not to punish the other person for the hurt they caused you. Your one true objective is to guide the situation towards a long-term victory which is peace, stability, and strength. To do this, you must begin with the two most powerful and misunderstood weapons in Sun Tzu's arsenal: silence and observation. When emotion escalates, the weak meet it with more emotion. The strategist meets it with a profound and unsettling silence. This silence is not passive, it is a weapon. It starves the fire of oxygen. It creates a vacuum in which the other person's anger echoes back at them, often revealing its own irrationality. While you are silent, you observe. You do not just listen to the words being said, you analyze the terrain. What is the fear behind the anger? What is the insecurity fueling the pride? What is the unspoken need that is crying out for attention? You are gathering intelligence, not to exploit a weakness in your enemy, but to understand the true nature of the problem so you can solve it effectively. The conventional person is trapped playing checkers in the middle of a storm. The strategist is on the hill above, watching the entire board, seeing the patterns and waiting for the precise moment to act. This control, this deliberate inaction, is the beginning of true power. It is the foundation upon which all other strategies are built. It is the first essential step to transforming yourself from a pawn of your emotions into the master of your reality. The path of the strategist is a lonely one at first, for it requires you to stand apart from the frantic, emotional dance that everyone else is engaged in. It demands a discipline that feels unnatural, a calm that others may mistake for coldness. But it is a necessary separation. It is the sacrifice required to become the one who can actually solve the problem, rather than just becoming another part of it. For uncontrolled emotion is a weapon your loved ones, even unintentionally, can use against you, and one you will certainly use against yourself. Love is not an excuse for weakness. Comment "I am the fortress" to declare your dominion over chaos, and subscribe to learn how to turn vulnerability into power. To hold the fortress you have claimed, you must now learn the principles of an invisible war. This is not a war fought with overt force, but with subtlety, perception, and a profound understanding of human nature itself. The strategist does not seek to conquer people. He seeks to master the dynamics that govern them. Sun Tzu provided the keys. Your task is to turn them. The first principle is knowledge. The master wrote, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." This is perhaps the most recited and most dangerously misunderstood of all his teachings. The amateur hears this and immediately begins to study his loved one, searching for flaws, weaknesses, and vulnerabilities to exploit. He turns the home into an intelligence agency, logging every mistake and cataloging every emotional trigger. This is not strategy. It is a pathetic and vulgar preparation for mutual destruction. You must elevate your understanding. In the intimate landscape of your relationships, your loved one is never the enemy. Let that sink into the marrow of your bones. The person you have sworn to protect is not your adversary. The true enemy is a far more insidious and ancient force. It is the chaos within. It is the echo of past wounds, the ghost of unresolved fears, the twin insurgents of pride and insecurity that reside within both of you. This is the enemy. It is a formless, internal entity that seizes control of the people you love and of you, turning you into puppets in its destructive theater. To know yourself is the first, most arduous campaign. It requires you to become a cartographer of your own soul. You must map your own internal terrain with unflinching honesty. Where are your fault lines? What words trigger a landslide of defensiveness? What fear of abandonment or disrespect lies dormant beneath the surface, waiting for the slightest tremor to erupt? You must observe your own emotional reactions with the dispassion of a scientist. When you feel the hot rush of anger, you must not become the anger. Instead, you step back and say, "Ah, there it is." The reaction. Why has it appeared now? What territory is it trying to defend? This self-knowledge is your primary line of defense. Without it, you are a general fighting blind, guaranteed to be ambushed by your own unexamined impulses. Then, you turn your gaze outward. To know the other is not to seek their weaknesses, but to recognize the shape of their own internal enemy. It is to develop a perception so acute that you see beyond the angry words and recognize the fear that is speaking. You look past the cold silence and identify the pain that built the wall. This is the strategist's empathy. It is not a soft, sentimental feeling. It is a powerful intelligence-gathering tool that allows you to understand the true state of the conflict. The average person hears an accusation and prepares a counterattack. The strategist hears an accusation and asks, "What is the source of this pain?" By understanding the real enemy, the internal chaos on both sides, you stop fighting against the person and begin a campaign against the problem itself. You transform the battle from me versus you into us versus the chaos. This is the first great turning point in the mastery of your world. The second principle is formlessness. Sun Tzu taught, "Be subtle, even to the point of formlessness. Be mysterious, even to the point of soundlessness." In the context of dark psychology, this is interpreted as a mandate for deceit and unpredictable manipulation, but its true application in your personal life is far more profound. Form is predictability. When conflict arises, your loved ones have studied you. They know your form. They know what to say to make you angry. They know which buttons to press to make you defensive or to make you retreat into silence. Your emotional reactions have a shape, a form, and they can grasp it, predict it, and fight against it. To become formless is to refuse to provide them with the predictable reaction they expect. It is the art of becoming like water. Water has no fixed shape. It cannot be broken with a fist. It cannot be seized. If you strike it, it yields, envelops, and absorbs the energy of the blow. When faced with the fiery, rigid form of anger, you do not meet it with the opposing form of your own anger. That is a foolish collision of two brittle objects, and both will break. Instead, you respond with the formlessness of unflinching calm. Where they expect an explosion, they find stillness. Where they anticipate a defense, they encounter a question. This is deeply unsettling for the forces of chaos. The emotional aggressor is throwing their energy against a void. Their momentum, finding no resistance, throws them off balance. Your serene refusal to engage on their emotional terms creates a mirror. In your tranquility, they are forced to see the reflection of their own disorderly state. You are not judging them. You are not attacking them. You are simply not becoming a participant in their storm. This formless strength dissolves aggression. It creates the necessary space for logic and clarity to re-enter the field. You do not win by overpowering the other person's emotion. You win by making it irrelevant. The third principle is command of the terrain. The master strategist understood that the ground on which a battle is fought is often more important than the strength of the armies. He spoke of treacherous ground, constricting ground, and fatal ground. This is the principle the emotionally reactive person violates constantly. They fight on the worst possible terrain. They will engage in a critical argument late at night when both parties are exhausted. This is treacherous ground. They will begin a sensitive discussion via text message, where tone is lost and misinterpretation is guaranteed. This is constricting ground. They will erupt in a public place, allowing ego and shame to become combatants. This is fatal ground, where no victory is possible, only mutual humiliation. The strategist with true detachment understands that you have the right to choose the terrain. This is a revolutionary concept. You are not obligated to fight the moment the battle is declared. Your mastery over your own emotions gives you the clarity to assess the environment. And if the ground is unfavorable, you execute a tactical withdrawal. This is not a retreat out of weakness. It is a deliberate maneuver of superior strength. It is the calm statement, "I see this is important, but I will not have this discussion now like this." You refuse to fight in the mud of exhaustion and anger. Instead, you guide the conflict to favorable ground. You become the anchor, yes, but an anchor that can be raised to move the vessel to a safer harbor. Favorable terrain is a time and place free of distractions. It is a state of mind where tempers have cooled. It is a posture of mutual respect, where the objective is resolution, not victory. By commanding the terrain, you dictate the rules of engagement. You ensure that any confrontation serves the ultimate purpose of strengthening the union rather than tearing it apart. This is not avoidance. It is the pinnacle of strategic engagement, the careful preparation of the battlefield to ensure that peace is the only possible outcome. These principles, knowledge, formlessness, and terrain, are not tricks. They are the architecture of a new reality, one in which you are no longer a slave to circumstance, but the calm and deliberate commander of your own life and the fierce, silent guardian of those you love. The principles of invisible warfare are worthless if the hands that wield them tremble. The most brilliant strategy will shatter if the mind that conceives it is a vessel of chaos. You have learned to observe the external terrain, but now you must turn your gaze inward, to the most treacherous and vital battlefield of all, the landscape of the self. For the first, last, and only true victory is the one you achieve over your own spirit. All other conquests are mere reflections of this singular silent triumph. To grasp this, consider the ultimate crisis. A loved one is wounded, bleeding, their life hanging by a thread. In that moment, two figures emerge, both born of love. The first is the panicked relative. Their heart is pure, their love immeasurable, but they are consumed. They scream, they cry, they collapse in a torrent of fear and grief. Their love, however potent, becomes a force of absolute uselessness. They are a second casualty, a vortex of disorder that obstructs the path to a solution. They become another problem to be managed. Then there is the second figure, the surgeon. Within them, the same profound human connection may exist, but it has been subordinated to a higher purpose. Their love is not expressed in the currency of frantic emotion, but in the steel of unwavering discipline. Their hands do not shake. Their gaze is clear and focused. The emotional storm that rages within them, and it does rage, is locked away, held in a chamber of iron will. They have achieved a state of supreme strategic detachment. This detachment is not coldness. It is the sharpest, most compassionate tool they possess. It is the scalpel of their calm, allowing them to cut away the disease with precision, unhindered by the trembling hand of fear. Their love is not a feeling they display, but a result they produce. They save the life. You must choose. In the crises of your life, will you be the panicked relative or the surgeon? Will your love manifest as useless, chaotic noise, or as effective, life-saving action? The process of becoming the surgeon is a brutal one. It is a war waged in silence and solitude against the most formidable generals you will ever face. These are the warlords of your own psyche. There is General Pride, the arrogant commander who would rather see the entire kingdom burn than admit a single error in judgment. He tells you that to concede a point is to lose the war, that your authority rests on a foundation of infallibility. He is the master of the scorched earth policy, destroying relationships to protect your ego. Then there is General Impatience, the reckless cavalry leader who demands immediate action and immediate resolution. He cannot tolerate the strategic ambiguity of waiting, of observing. He mistakes stillness for inaction and silence for weakness. He will charge your forces headlong into an ambush, sacrificing long-term peace for the fleeting satisfaction of a swift, foolish confrontation. And you must face General Fear, the master of espionage and psychological warfare. He whispers catastrophic futures in your ear. He magnifies every risk and minimizes every strength. He convinces you that detachment will lead to alienation, that your fortress of calm will become a prison of loneliness. He argues for the safety of the familiar emotional chaos, because at least its patterns are known. He is the saboteur who cripples you from within before the battle has even begun. To defeat these internal tyrants, you do not meet them with force. You cannot destroy your own pride or banish your own fear. To attempt to do so is to wage a civil war that will leave you in ruins. The strategist's path is one of sublime subversion. You do not fight your emotions. You simply withdraw their command. When one of these generals issues an order, to lash out in anger, to retreat in fear, to interrupt with impatience, you observe the command, acknowledge it, and then deliberately, quietly, you disobey. You uncouple the feeling from the action. You let the wave of emotion rise, crest, and break, all while your feet remain planted, unmoved, on the bedrock of your will. This is the forging of the self. Each time you choose a deliberate response over an instinctive reaction, the steel of your character hardens. Once this internal dominion is established, you can begin to shape the world's perception of you. This is not about crafting a false image. It is about allowing your internal reality to project outward as a strategic asset. Sun Tzu advised to Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. In the intimate battlefield, this takes on a new meaning. Appearing strong when you are weak is your duty in a crisis. Internally, you may be wrestling with general fear, but externally, you project an aura of unshakable serenity. You become the lighthouse in the storm. This projection of strength is not a lie, it is a gift to those you love. Your calm gives them permission to feel their own fear without descending into panic. It becomes their anchor, a testament to the fact that the situation, however dire, is under command. Appearing weak when you are strong is a more subtle and masterful art. It is the practice of strategic humility. You possess the clarity and the solution, but you do not impose it with force. Instead, you guide others to the conclusion themselves. You ask questions instead of issuing edicts. You listen more than you speak. You allow others to feel a sense of agency and control, all while gently shaping the terrain towards the most favorable outcome. This is the quiet confidence of the true master, who has no need to display his power, for its effects are evident in the peace and order he creates around him. The goal of this perception management is neither to be loved nor to be feared. It is to be effective. It is to be respected as a force of stability and reason. This consistent practice builds your ultimate weapon, your reputation. Every action, every controlled response, every moment you choose clarity over chaos is a stone laid in the foundation of this invisible monument. Over time, this reputation becomes a living presence. It is a shadow that enters the room before you, altering the emotional climate before you speak a single word. People will learn that emotional outbursts find no purchase with you. They will understand that manipulation will be met not with anger, but with quiet observation. Your reputation for strength and serenity becomes a passive deterrent, discouraging conflict before it can even begin. It is the throne no one dares approach with foolishness, not because they fear your wrath, but because they respect your peace. This is the domain of the psychological master, a world shaped not by force but by the undeniable gravity of a self-conquered soul. You have learned to observe the true enemy and to become the anchor in the chaos. You have waged a silent war against the tyrants in your own mind. Now, before the final veil is lifted to reveal how a lasting victory is consolidated, ensure you are subscribed, for the ultimate wisdom is reserved only for the dedicated. It is time to understand the nature of the decisive stroke. The amateur believes that victory is achieved through a long, grinding war of attrition. He wears down his opponent and himself in a series of exhausting, emotionally draining skirmishes. He believes that the one left standing amidst the rubble is the winner. The strategist knows this is the definition of a fool's errand. A victory that destroys the terrain is no victory at all. The true master of conflict understands that the final, decisive moment is not a bloody battle, but a swift, precise, and almost silent execution of a perfectly timed maneuver. Sun Tzu described this moment with chilling elegance. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. Consider the falcon. It does not waste its energy circling and screeching. It soars high above the chaos of the world below, a master of its terrain, observing, waiting. Its vision is absolute. It sees not just the prey, but the patterns, the moments of inattention, the critical instant of vulnerability. And when that instant arrives, when the enemy, the chaos, has overextended itself and exposed its weakness, the falcon does not hesitate. It folds its wings and dives. This is not an act of anger or malice. It is an act of pure, focused intent. The strike is fast, overwhelming, and final. In your world, this strike is not an act of aggression against your loved one. It is the decisive blow against the destructive pattern itself. It is the moment you have been preparing for through all your observation and internal discipline. While the forces of chaos were expending their energy in frantic emotional outbursts, you were conserving yours. While they were revealing their tactics, you were concealing your intent. The decisive stroke is the calm, unwavering action that cuts the Gordian knot of a repeating conflict. It may be the moment you sit down in absolute stillness and say, "We will not speak of this again until we can do so without raising our voices. This conversation, in its current form, is over." It may be the quiet but irreversible financial decision you make to protect the family from a recurring pattern of irresponsibility. It may be the establishment of a boundary, delivered not as an ultimatum in the heat of anger, but as a statement of unchangeable reality in a moment of clarity. I will protect my peace, you state, and while I will help you fight your chaos, I will no longer allow it to enter my home. The power of this action comes not from its volume, but from its finality. It is delivered without emotional charge. It is not a negotiation. It is the manifestation of a conclusion that has already been reached in the silent chambers of your strategic mind. The victim that the falcon destroys is not the person. It is the destructive cycle. It is the endless, draining argument. It is the toxic dynamic. You are not attacking your partner. You are surgically removing the cancer that is killing the relationship. This action, born of profound detachment and clarity, is the ultimate expression of your love and your duty. What follows the decisive stroke is the most critical phase, the consolidation. This is where the amateur, flushed with the adrenaline of winning, makes his final, fatal mistake. He celebrates. He gloats. He says, "I told you so." He seeks an apology, a concession, a surrender. He seeks to humiliate the very person he claims to protect. He reveals that his entire campaign was not about establishing peace, but about gratifying his own ego. The true strategist does nothing of the sort. Immediately following the decisive action, he returns to the state he knows best: quiet, vigilant observation. He does not celebrate, for the resolution of a crisis is not a cause for joy, but a somber necessity. He simply watches as the new reality he has imposed begins to take root. He observes the consequences of his actions as they unfold. The silence in the house is not a void to be filled with triumphant noise, but a new ground to be carefully cultivated. The objective was never to win, but to create a lasting peace on your terms. And those terms are stability, respect, and emotional order. The aftermath is your moment of greatest strength and greatest compassion. You have demonstrated your power by ending the conflict. Now you must demonstrate your wisdom by healing the terrain. You do not abandon the other person in the shock of the new reality. You remain the lighthouse, the unwavering presence. Your actions have proven you will not tolerate chaos, but your subsequent demeanor must prove that your love and commitment are absolute. This is how you consolidate your victory. You do not demand respect. You simply act in a way that makes it the only logical response. You create a new peace, a new equilibrium, where future challenges are deterred not by the memory of a fight, but by the undeniable presence of your unshakable strength. And so you arrive at the final philosophical truth of this path. The supreme power is not the ability to win any conflict. It is the ability to shape reality in such a way that conflict becomes irrelevant. Your home ceases to be a battlefield, not because you have crushed all opposition, but because the very atmosphere you cultivate is hostile to the seeds of destructive chaos. You have moved beyond the endless game of emotional chess. The fortress you were building was not in the end for you. The novice builds a fortress to hide from the world, to protect his own vulnerabilities. The master transforms that fortress into a sanctuary for others. Its walls are not made of stone and suspicion, but of discipline, clarity, and unwavering will. It is a place where those you love can find refuge from their own internal storms, secure in the knowledge that one pillar will not fall, that one light will not go out. This is the ultimate paradox of strategic detachment when applied to love. You begin the journey seeking power for yourself, a way to protect your heart from the pain and chaos of emotional entanglement. But if you walk the path with true discipline and wisdom, you arrive at a different destination. You realize the ultimate power is not self-protection, but the ability to protect others. You discover that the greatest expression of love is not the unrestrained outpouring of your own feelings, but the creation of a stable, peaceful world where the people you cherish can flourish. You do not become a cold, unfeeling robot. You become the rock, the foundation, the silent guardian upon which a legacy of strength and peace can be built. You have mastered the art of war, not to become a warrior, but to become a bringer of peace. The most profound power is the peace that no one dares disturb.